the U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it too. We'll own it.
Okay.
I'll just title this. Let me just drop the title here. Did Donald J. Trump, the President of the United States, did he just reveal himself as the Antichrist?
So
It's flagrant, it's clickbaity, but
and yet
it's like
those words pretty much exactly flowed through my mind. So it's not.
There's been lots of comments. We've gotten lots of comments about this.
We've made a couple eschatology videos in the past, and these comments came up in these eschatology videos, and I kind of went like, Trump's the Antichrist. Like, okay, whatever, you know, kind of brushed him off. And my wife and I, like, we'll text back and forth about the news, about RFK Jr.'s Senate hearing, about all the stuff that's going on. My wife was like, there's so much winning, I can't even handle it, you know, and we're just like so excited about what's happening. And Trump's moving full steam ahead. And then yesterday, or maybe it was today, I think this came out last night. And then so she texted me today and she was like, Michael, this is not good.
I've been a little nervous. I'm like, there's so many things happening. I don't even know how to keep track of it. But explain why that question popped into your mind. Like, this is Ravioli Boy's in here. He's like, oh, no politics. This is an eschatology topic, not necessarily political, which eschatology is kind of geopolitical in nature.
So, and we mentioned before the show that I was like, basically, the entire Middle East feels like a Claymore mine. Mm-hmm. Every twitch, every movement, everything that happens there, you're just like, you just kind of clench, like, oh no, is this the one? Is this the thing that, is this the domino that sends the rest of the dominoes? And, you know, so the idea is the Antichrist is a figure in the Middle East who will, now we think of him popularly as war, control, oppression, chaos, persecution, all this stuff. But that's only half of it. The Bible actually says that during the first half of his reign, it's peace. It's a lot of peace and a lot of prosperity for a few people, for the people who get on his team. So what a lot of the people actually in the comments of our previous eschatology videos were saying is Donald Trump was hammering out the Abraham Accords. Right. He was going to make peace between
peace accords, or is it just Abraham?
Right, the Abrahamic Accords. Yeah, okay. But they are peace accords between Israel and Saudi Arabia. They were going to normalize relations, which would have been, I mean, that's like Nobel Peace Prize kind of stuff. That's like unthinkable that you could
unprecedented.
Totally unprecedented that you could think that these two countries would get along and talk to each other and make peace with each other and move forward with normal relations. Because at least public facing, Saudi Arabia says that it doesn't like Israel and doesn't want to get along with Israel. So the fact that Donald Trump is coming in here to make what he thinks looks like peace, but it also is, some people would call it persecution and cleansing and all the cleansing this whole entire area of people.
So what happened? What happened in the news yesterday or the day before?
I think this was last night. Okay, is when this all came out. Yeah, this is the 4th. So Donald Trump. Well, so there's been a war between the Israelis and the Palestinians in Gaza. This is a long, long history. So to start it at October 7th is not even totally accurate, but there's been a long history of what's been going on between them. And what Donald Trump says in this press conference is he's like, the entire area is basically rubble. Like, you can't live there. Now, what's crazy is the Palestinians and the Israelis do not share a heritage. And what at least you would imagine the Egyptians and the Jordanians share a closer heritage with the Palestinians than the Israelis do, for sure. But the Egyptians and the Jordanians will not take any refugees. I mean, that is the natural kind of escape route from Gaza, is to go into Egypt, and Egypt will not take any refugees at all. So you have all these millions of people living in a totally bombed out wasteland because of this war. And it's a terrible, terrible, terrible situation that they're all in. And Donald Trump came out in this press conference with Prime Minister Netanyahu of Israel and said, we're going to take over Gaza. Wow. It's going to be ours. We're going to own it, and we're going to rebuild it. So we'll scroll down, and I'll read some of this from the Daily Wire.
United States will take over Gaza Strip, Trump says during Netanyahu's press conference.
Okay, Donald Trump announced during a press conference that the United States will take over the Gaza Strip. The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it too. That's so Trump. We'll own it. Trump said the United States will be responsible for dismantling unexploded bombs and other weapons, demolishing and leveling destroyed buildings, and creating an economic development zone that will supply unlimited numbers of jobs and housing for the people of the area. Okay, roll the clip. Hear him in his own words.
The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it too. We'll own it and be responsible for dismantling all of the dangerous unexploded bombs and other weapons on the site, level the site and get rid of the destroyed buildings, level it out, create an economic development that will supply unlimited numbers of jobs and housing for the people of the area. Do a real job, do something different. Just can't go back. If you go back, it's going to end up the same way it has for 100 years.
Okay, just to clarify at the front end, you and I don't actually believe Donald Trump is the man of lawlessness.
No.
Because there's too much scripture suggesting Gog and Magog, these specific areas in the east of Israel, where this man of lawlessness, or in Daniel, the little horn, will emerge from.
Yeah.
And then establish peace in the area in the Middle East. And then there will be a third temple erected, and then temple sacrifices will be happening. And in the in 3.5 years of this peace era,
and then the temple will be desecrated by this guy. So some of the there is a through line. You kind of have to. You'd be forgiven if you missed it, but there is a through line in the scriptures that he is an Assyrian, which would be northern Iraq. His kingdom, kind of the capital of his kingdom that provides most of the economic prosperity for his empire, is Babylon. And, you could take Babylon figuratively, and you could think it's New York City or London or Vatican or whatever.
Or the World Economic Forum.
Yeah. But there is some strong suggestion, again, in the scripture prophetically, that it is literally Babylon, where it used to be. So, all that stuff kind of suggests that it will be a Middle Eastern guy with a Middle Eastern kingdom. But I think the thing that makes people scared is, one,
this feels like a step
yeah,
forward.
That in this super hot, controversial area, that Trump would just stick his finger in the eye.
It's so crazy.
And be like, okay, we take this now. And two,
and I guess he can do that because we're allies with Israel, like in a.
I think so. I mean, like Netanyahu.
I guess he's doing it. It sounds like it.
And Netanyahu didn't seem to have a problem with it.
I'm sure he likes it. I mean, it's more protection for.
Yeah, that's probably true. Okay, can you give me your take? Give me some takes.
I don't know. It like when I saw the headline, I kind of just like, that's funny, and then I saw it again. I'm like, and people will roast us for our eschatology, premillennial,
kind of that strict literalist.
Yes, exactly,
yeah.
And that there's this actual man of lawlessness coming and all of this stuff. I'm a fan of Joel Richardson, so I see a lot of value
the Mideast Beast,
and his work and his viewpoint and it really does get into that field of like where I hesitate to go, where these YouTube like sensationalists where it's
right. Everything is like
everything's
prophecy
the end
update.
times, yeah. And so I don't want to go there because I don't want that to be our channel. But I think in any full Christian worldview and being honest with yourself about where we're at in history and wanting to be involved in your local community and being able to relate to what's going on in the world, like, you know, not obsessing over it, but you have to have it as a part of your healthy thought process, right? Like in the sense of you can't just ignore eschatology and be like, just because you want to. Like this is tied throughout all the scriptures. You need to have a viewpoint on it.
Right.
Like you can't just be like, I guess you could, and theoretically, if it's not your thing, but I mean, it is consequential to the way that you operate in a day-to-day basis and what you're looking forward to. And we're not all doom and gloom. Like that's why when I asked you, I was like, what percentage chance do you think that the Great Tribulation, if you had to like take an honest guess, like to your best of your ability, that the Great Tribulation happens in your lifetime, and
60,
what was
60 or 70%?
60 or 7%. Okay, so you're saying 60 or 70%. Like
I think 5 years ago I would not have been that high. But
right.
in the last 5 years, 60 to 70%.
Okay, let's take the 70% number, right? Or 65 or however much you want to put it. That's a pretty good statistical probability that, like, as far as investing goes, like your investment's gonna do pretty good. If you have like a 70%,
yeah, you're gonna put that investment down.
Yeah. So, but you're not living in fear. Like,
no.
Is it excitement? Is it fear? Like, I know people are like, well, you're excited that these crazy things are gonna happen.
I think
like,
I have a more nuanced view of the Great Tribulation. That yes, it will be worldwide, but that also doesn't mean that it's like
the same gravity.
Guillotines worldwide for everybody, all Christians everywhere. I think that it will be regional. It will be much, much worse in specific regions of the world. The Middle East specifically. So there's one, is I don't necessarily think that if I were to live through the Great Tribulation that everywhere every Christian would be under the same level of persecution.
Yes,
and
but
two,
you don't want to downplay the bowls and the trumpets.
That is true.
In the sense of that, from our understanding, about one half of the earth will.
Well, okay, and I also have an understanding that the Bible does say that God has not appointed his children to wrath. So I do think there's
a protection.
Very much like the Israelites in Egypt, that they were protected. The darkness was over the whole land, but not where they were.
What is that called? That's like Easter, right? Like
Passover, yeah.
Passover, yeah.
Yeah, they had the blood of the Passover lamb that protected their children. So I think that there will be a supernatural divine protection over Christians from the judgments of wrath. And you know what? It is totally kind of silly and whatever to say this, but persecution's not the end of the road.
Right.
Death is not the end of the road.
It's easy to say, but
it's easy to say,
in the moment, it might be more difficult.
But I do think that I really do believe it, that death is not the end of the road. And so for the Great Tribulation to come, it's just like, oh man, we've been waiting a second. Like, let's go. Let's get this show on the road.
I think that's like
kind of how I feel.
One of the number one things one of the main things, I guess, that sets apart a Christian and from like an atheist, and the way we conduct ourselves in society, and the heroicism, sometimes that Christians hold in the sense of,
there's a valiant.
Do not love your life unto death, because like there's a promise that like everything is contingent on eternal life being true and real, and God keeping his end of the bargain, or his promise of raising those who put their faith in Christ from the dead. That Jesus is the firstborn of all of the resurrection, and it's incredible. That is what our blessed hope is, like, in the future resurrection of mankind. Like, it's incredible. It's incredible. We don't have to die. Like, we're going to live forever.
And the oldest story, the oldest story ever told is the Epic of Gilgamesh. You know what it's about?
No.
This Nephilim, he's half god, half human. this Nephilim becomes best buddies with this other guy, and they hang out and they have a great time. And then the other guy dies, and he spends the rest of the book looking for the secret to immortality because he's obsessed with finding a way to not die. And that's the oldest story ever told.
The oldest?
Yeah, that is the oldest written story.
Really?
Yep.
Huh.
Stretching back.
This isn't like a Wes Huff quote of like word for word. This is the oldest.
No, I'm
story.
pretty sure it is the oldest story that we have.
Okay.
I mean, unless you want to say that the story about Noah came from Noah, but like the oldest written story that we have is the Epic of Gilgamesh, and it's all about how to make sure that we don't die. And that's the Christian story is the opposite. You can. Who cares? It's really who cares. The death and the devil cannot defeat you because Jesus already beat them. And if you belong to him, you win. He already won, so you win if you belong to him.
No matter what.
So I think that anyway, we're so far off of this.
What's the point? What why are we?
Right. I just think it's the claymore, every twitch, everything, I did
like the fact that Israel is even a nation is somewhat a miracle.
It is absolutely a miracle.
Yeah.
So, and then you have anything like trying to create peace between Israel and its neighbors or trying to create war between Israel and its neighbors. It's always just makes you feel twitchy, Yeah. The other thing that I think,
especially with like the Temple Institute being a thing and their plans for erecting a third temple, it's like, if you have a different eschatology, you
I don't know what you're going to make of all that.
Yeah, you at least got to check it out.
So, and then I think part 2, this is not eschatology related, but I think that when I read this last night and I meditated on it some this morning, as I saw more headlines come out, the thing that struck me the most was I thought to myself, now I feel like I'm living in Babylon. I don't know what it was. It was just this strange. I'm trying to find the right words to describe it, but it was this
like
feeling
what Trump
of
is doing.
It was this feeling of like this felt like
we're so focused on this prosperity and bringing
right. It's like
everything.
prosperity and like we're winning and we're doing all these things, and that's kind of like we're getting this from the Daily Wire, so that's kind of like the tone of everything. And for the first time, that's when I was like, oh, we're an empire. And I don't like this. And this was the first time that I was like, I live in Babylon. I can benefit from its wealth and I can pray for its peace, but I can also say, when you're doing things that I think are unchristlike.
So do you think Trump's astray here with this? Because wasn't the whole...
I go back and forth.
Yeah, because wasn't the whole idea, hey, we're going to focus on America first kind of thing, but now it's like, but you could also interpret that as like America first is securing peace around the world because then it brings more security for America and strategic positions. And
I think that kind of is it. As a Christian, I can say, I can conceive of maybe what the Christ-like thing would be, but then I can look at the American empire and I can think like, yep, empires are going to do what empires are going to do. And this probably is the strategic move in terms of the global scale of empires warring against each other. You know what I mean? So
and it's almost like you can't stop what's coming.
And I think that was the feeling.
It's building up. It's like you can't really. It's like the genie is out of the bottle, or it's what is the box thing? It's like
Pandora's box.
Once you open Pandora's box, it's like the deep black box. It's like we've opened up global dynamics between countries and the way that America, we've extended our hand and everything. We've opened up the box of empire.
And they all live based on the devil's rules. None of them play by God's rules.
And with technology, we can't really revert back to, we'll just be on this side of the planet.
Right.
We just want, states to run the whole thing. It's like empire kind of got us into this situation. And now it's like, is there really a way out? Because if you shrink back,
yeah.
Because ideally we want fundamentally we want states, to run the country. We're the United States. We're not this big global empire. But.
So I read some of kind of like the conservative thought behind why this was a good decision. And I think I get it. I think I get the argument of like why this would be a strategic move for the American empire to make. But it was the first kind of slap in the face of like,
wake up, buddy.
Yeah, hey buddy, this is not all a gravy train for Christians. This was the first time where I truly felt like I'm living in Babylon.
Do you feel like for you there's like spikes of this like realization where like some world event will happen, like, you know, you're kind of like on the Trump train politically and it's going to help our economy and all of these things, and then it's like you know, event happens and you're like, oh yeah, I'm reminded I might be living out the end times prophecy right now. Like this could be what my life is. Like I could have been, you know, God could have ordained and, you know, brought forth me at this stage of, or us and our life experience at this stage of world history.
Yeah. Yeah.
What implications does that have for us? Like how ought we to respond to that? Is that a good thing? Seems like that's the attitude Jesus wanted us to have, is like, hey, look out for the man of lawlessness.
Yeah.
You know, Matthew 24.
You know, I think if you're single and you want to fly halfway across the world to Afghanistan or India or whatever and give your life for the gospel and die a martyr, cool.
Yeah.
Rock on. Do it. But for me, in a local church that counts on me and my wife and my kids, really, I think more than anything, I look at my kids and the people in my church. I just think like, we're all going to have to walk through this together. And I have to be strong for you. Like we all are going to have to make it together.
Right.
And I'm going to walk in such a way that nobody gets left behind.
And it's not all like kamikaze martyr mode. It's like, you know, like protecting people is good. Protecting the innocent, even physically. Exactly it's not just like, okay, we're all good. You know, we're all going to be martyred, which ultimately our hope is not in this life, but it doesn't mean you just like, don't protect your home when an intruder comes in. And
but I think that is the irony of these grand scale geopolitical events with these people in ivory towers that I have no say on what they do or what they decide. And
well, what's crazy is they're happening more frequently, and they even like the AI race right now with you know, DeepSeek R1 coming out, and that's like kind of messing up this. You know, we got these mini empires within the United States that are these companies, and, you know, OpenAI has to release their next model because of this open source model that China released. It's like, and then, you know, the rise of stablecoin cryptocurrency and Bitcoin and these global markets and transactions happening 24/7, like people being able to send money instantly all around the globe. It's just like, you know, it's absolutely wild.
But my duty is to the people who love me and count on me.
Right.
And who I love and I can count on them. And I think that's the great paradox, is the crazier things get on a global scale is the more I need to lean into the local scale.
Yeah. And I think that's the beauty of individual calling too. And like God speaking to us today, individually and corporately, is like, you know, we have a good friend who is in the Middle East now, and you know, just got up and went, and we're sad because we're his friend, but he didn't have a wife and kids and all of that stuff, and he's like, I need to go to these people. I need to go to this people group. I'm called to go and share and lead them to the Lord. And it's just so wild with, you know, because that's actually something that I personally get nervous about, where I'm like, you know, Victoria and I talk about world missions and being in other cultures and all of this stuff all the time, and we absolutely love other cultures and feel like we connect with them so much, and but like, and I don't know if this is a bad thing or a good thing, it's just I'm processing out loud, is I love Texas. Like, and we have security.
Greatest country on earth.
Exactly. Texas, the greatest country. Yeah. And we're like, you know, a few times a year, like it's a real consideration whether Texas should secede. But, you know, and it's like, that's something I've understood more and more is God is strategic. He's going to place people in different roles and do different things. We don't all have to have the same exact role. And especially as history comes to a climax, there's going to be very specific roles playing out and different dynamics to how this all comes together.
Yeah, but God has put you in your place with your people at this time for a purpose that only you can play in that place. He has, and perhaps he has given you a role to play on a geopolitical level across these transnational politics, all this stuff. Maybe he has, but most likely, you're bagging groceries or you're sitting at a computer doing your work, and keep doing it to the glory of God, loving the people around you. That's what God gave you to do. And
then even on like a world missions, like the world missions topic, or like organizations or whatever, there's some that are focused on humanitarian efforts. Like, hey, we're going into conflict zones, like the David Eubanks, Free Burma Rangers. We're like, we're going straight into conflict zones. We're trained like military group, and we're giving real aid and need to people who are physically injured, bringing them out, helping them get healed up. We have medics and extraction vehicles and all this stuff. And then they share the gospel within that. And then there's very much social, relational evangelism type thing in a more stable countries and all these things. And then there's local church. So my question to you would be, with kind of to our audience listening, how do you, because we're more connected now than ever. We have more tools now than ever. Like, it seems like there's this real effect of the news cycle that gives people a lot of anxiety and gives them worry and focusing on that. There seems to be this emergence of media that allows smaller creators and people to have real voices to bring real value. But then there's also this kind of overstimulation thing that's happening to where people are too worried about global stuff going on and international stuff going on and not focused enough on the local level. For you, when you hear about things like this, you see maybe modern day prophecy or ancient prophecy playing out in modern day. Does that bring you back to this like when you do that and process it and all of that, does this bring you back to like, okay, I need to be present with my family here, with my friends here, with my fellowship and community here? And because I don't know, is that the ultimate revelation that often brings you back to, or like whatever your realm of influence? Like this podcast is a part of it, but you're also associate pastor and
I would say not causally.
Okay.
Not like I read this headline and then I'm like, I gotta go hang out with my kids. It's not causally, but it is like, it's makes me feel like I'm getting sucked. And then the reaction back the other way is to go like, nope. Like I need to put this phone down and I need to look somebody else in the eye and give my son a hug. Like that's
yeah.
So it's not a I read the headline and then I go love my kid causally step. It's like I read the headline, it makes me feel like I'm going insane, and then I react back in a radical kind of local, I just need to love my kids. I just
I need to be present. Yeah.
That kind of, and it also helps it helps a lot to carry a lot of responsibility.
Well, that's good too, because like even in like, okay, we with this show and in our personal lives and with Divine Creative as a ministry and with the church that you're a pastor at, we want to make an impact for the kingdom in a ministerial sense. But you see it so often, like when people are so like just grappled by that. And I don't care if it's like your role in the kingdom is to go get involved in politics and become a politician.
Yeah, maybe.
Or like your role is to serve your local community or run your podcast show or write your book or whatever it is, or just go serve at your church. I lost my train of thought.
Well, I think this is where you're going, so I'll pick it right back
Okay.
up and just say, and this may be the place we can land the plane, is it helps me the most that I have people who count on me to get
Yeah.
something done for them.
Yeah.
Which pulls my head out of my phone.
Yeah.
And it gives me something to worry about day to day that is not what Donald Trump is going to do halfway
Right.
across the world.
Well, and what I recovered my thought is it's the whole family unit conversation, right?
Yeah.
It's like you see the greatest downfall of people who want to make an impact in the kingdom and do ministry well. They're usually falling because of neglect of their family. You know, and there's like some divide where they're spending way too much time at work, way too much time on ministry, and they're not nurturing that family and being involved in healthy relationships that aren't all this pastor dynamic, you know. And it's like we need this balance.
Yeah. Well, and I would say this, actually. I would not say balance.
Okay.
I would say even the grandest, most incredible, world-changing contribution that you could give your life to, once all of history comes to a close, all your effort will be done. The only thing that will carry with you into the next age after everything gets burnt up with fire is your relationships. Is deep, deep down, past work, past purpose, past whatever you think, is the people that you can love today and love on and take with you into the next age.
Yeah.
And if it's for them that you do some world-changing act of greatness and, you know, whatever, like, then great, do that for them.
Well, it seems like
or love for somebody, but you have to love somebody.
Well, it seems like you need that to actually fulfill the full role. Like, at least when I look at the model of eldership, it's like I think there's a book on this, but one of the common neglected aspects of what the requirements of eldership is that your family is in order. Right. A lot of, like, you know, you see certain elders or pastors, whoever you want it, and their kids are not well behaved. And it's like, oh, what is, you know, what is disaligned here?
Yeah.
Because there must be something out of order, you know?
Yep. And I think that it is that, especially as men, you take this sense of purpose, dignity, strength from what I can do. I had my first ever dad moment. I took my daughter to a school function, and I'm standing around with all these dads who are probably 10 years older than me. And it was like straight out of a movie. It was the craziest thing. Because it was like, well, hey there, you know, that was nice to meet you. I'm Tyler. I was like, you know, and it was just, it was every stereotype out of a movie. And the thing that, it did not take long. You know, it was like, oh, is that one yours? Yeah, that one's mine over there. Yeah. You know, and kind of lull. And then it was like, so what do you do? First question. What do you do? And I was
not who you are. Who are you?
Yeah, I was like, dude, is this for real? Like, is this really how dads talk to each other? I just couldn't believe it. I don't know. You know, but that was it. Is that's the first, is what do you do? You know? And so anyway, I think that
we're landing the plane.
we gotta land it.
Do we have any chats before we fully little mini Q&A as much as we can?
Come on.
Yeah, so there has been kind of an ongoing discussion in the comments that was originated from this comment. And there's a couple things that we could probably go over, but one of the things is what was said by someone was, it's weird he put a trap in the middle of the garden and an antagonist before we had knowledge. Get a young kid without the knowledge of right and wrong, put it in a room with a plate of cookies and say, don't eat these cookies. It doesn't take omniscience to know the outcome. And then later, someone else said Adam and Eve were specifically told they would die the day they ate the fruit. The serpent said, "No, you won't." Who lied? They said, "My problem is that God lied because they didn't die the very day they ate the fruit."
You want to take this one? What are your thoughts? This is, we talk about this on a lot of episodes. So,
was it a trap? I think you have already chosen your vocabulary word
right,
to describe it. The Bible word would be a test. It was not a trap. It was a test.
And what are tests for?
Whoever made this comment, I don't want to assume, but it kind of makes me think that you don't have kids. Because that whole scenario that you described, there's a plate of cookies, and I tell my kids, don't take the cookies. You know, and it's like, well, you just know it's going to happen. No, actually, I don't. I tell my kids, this is what I expect of you, and I expect them to do it. And, I mean, I have a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 1-year-old. And even my 1-year-old, I can tell her things to do. And she knows what I'm saying. And she can not do them. Like, hey, don't go in the street. Don't go there. Get off of there. She knows what I'm saying, and she can obey me. My 1-year-old. So obedience does not take rational logic understanding. Obedience takes trust and love, and a 1-year-old can do it. Obedience it's not a trap. It's not hard. You just got to love and trust the person who's telling it to you and be absolutely committed to obedience to them. That's what obedience requires. And that is what the test is. The purpose of the test is, really, it's asking the question, do you love me? God's not expecting you to understand. Right. God's not expecting you to...
Because your kids may not fully understand why they shouldn't have the cookies.
They do not understand. They do not understand why they should not have the cookies. They want the cookies. Yeah. But they do understand. They do understand this. If you take that cookie, I will give you a spanking.
Right.
They do understand that for sure. And usually that's enough to say, like, okay, I won't do that.
And deep down, they feel the love that you have for them, and there's trust built through that.
Yep, they understand all of that. And so that's what I mean is, like, I don't want to assume, but it kind of makes me feel like this person doesn't have children, because you know that about children, is that that's how they operate. And so and if I have cookies on the table and I tell my children, no, you cannot have that, I'm not doing that to them as a trap. But when I give them instructions, I fully expect my kids to obey, because the test is not a test to trick you. The test is a test to see if you love me. And I think then you can go a deeper level of the philosophy of God did not give, and this is the craziest thing to imagine, but God did not give pleasure and happiness and delight. That's what Eden means, delight. The Garden of Paradise and delight. He didn't force you to have it. It was all conditional. Hey, like, if you want to walk away from paradise, if you want to walk away from delight, you absolutely can. All you have to do is say you don't love me.
Right. The test was a requirement. Having the tree of the knowledge of good and evil accessible was a requirement for there to actually be true love. Without that, God has made you. Like, there's no decision. There's no decision to love. It's just, you have to. There's no choice. You don't have a choice in it.
Yeah. And the thing that we've been talking about recently is that the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, it's not just, it's just a picture of reality.
Right.
Right.
Of every choice you make.
I recently heard somebody quoted. It said, the abuse does not take away the natural use, which basically what I'm trying to say is, when you have a tongue, you can curse with it or bless with it. And you can't have a tongue to bless with and not be allowed to curse with it. Or else you'll be a robot, and God didn't make robots. So he gave you a tongue, and he wanted you to bless with it, but you could curse with it. God gave you sexual organs, and you could use them naturally, or you could use them unnaturally. And he can't give you sexual organs and then, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
because you have them, you can use them unnaturally. And that's with everything, with every gift that God gives, there is the possibility that it can be misused. And that doesn't take away the fact that it's good. It has a good and proper use that brings life and blessing. But there is another way to use it that he has said not to, that brings death and destruction. And you just have to obey. And so the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, I do believe it was a real historical thing that two people could take and eat from. But it is also a picture of everything in life. Is that's just how life works, is you have all these faculties and functions and possibilities in life, and there's only one path that leads to life. And right there, right at hand, right in the midst, is the reality that I could misuse all these gifts and faculties and land myself in pain and death. And that's just how life works. And you have to be wise enough and obedient to God to trust, to make the right choice when that comes. And it is not a trap. It is a gift. The tree of life is a gift. And all you have to do is eat from that one and not from the other. And it can be as much of a gift and a life and blessing as you want to keep loving God and obeying him. It's only when you choose to disobey God that you go the other way.
Yeah.
So I would say, did they die that day? When my little girl picks a flower and she says, like, oh, I'm going to bring this to mommy. Is that flower dead?
Yeah. No. Oh, it's alive technically, I guess, right?
Well, it's still like sort of standing straight. It's still got all its color.
Cut off from
It's still
life.
got all its petals. But is it dead? Yes. It is going, like
it's inevitable.
the energy is going to come out of it. The water is going to come out of it. So it's going to wilt and the petals are going to fall off. But as soon as I pluck it, it is dead. And in that moment when Adam and Eve decided, I don't want to love you, I want to do my own thing, they died.
Well, it's also a phrasing thing, right? It's like, for the day that you take of it, you will surely die. Like, it's like, hey, as soon as you take of it, you're for sure dead. Like, you're not going to live after that. Like, you're going to die.
Right.
No matter what. Victoria?
Just for clarity's sake, would you say that what you're getting at, Michael, is that the day that Adam and Eve took of the knowledge of good and evil, took of that fruit, that they were cut off from the source of life?
Yes. Well, they cut themselves off from the source of life, I think, is even the more appropriate and truthful way to say it.
But the argument is like, oh, well, God lied because they didn't die right then and there. They lived.
No, they did die right then and there.
Okay.
Because they cut themselves off from life. That constant flowing source of life that was God himself.
The death process began.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Once you are outside of the garden, you are dead and dying. You are cut off from life, and you are like the flower, and you can prolong it by sticking it in some water and giving it some little food pellets.
Well, could it also be like a translation thing too? Like, we just don't understand what that phrase could encompass. Like, it could mean like, hey, you're sure, like if I say, hey, if you, take this poison, you will die. Surely you will die. And it's like, it might take you a few days to die.
Right, but you will die.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, okay, I see the comment. They failed a test that they didn't understand. Again, my kids know. They understand. If you do that, I will spank you.
Yeah.
It doesn't take... You don't have to know that if you eat that fruit, there will be cancer, and there will be mosquitoes, and there will be bubonic plague, and there will be... You don't have to understand what is going to happen or why.
That comment's also already coming from the lens of God. You have to prove yourself to me.
Say why?
Because it's like, okay, we know God is good. And so this is also, it's already like, well, it seems like to me, in my knowledge and my view, that Adam and Eve didn't understand it. And so you must be bad. Like it's like getting at the character of God. It's not like, does God exist or is this story true? It's like, you are framing God as a bad guy.
Well, and that was the exact same accusation that the devil gave.
Right.
He's holding something back from you.
So you can accept that narrative.
You could accept the devil's narrative, but I think, man, my super, super practical experience in raising kids is that obedience does not require understanding. Love and obedience do not require understanding. Love and obedience can be experienced, and you do not need logic or to explain all the why. Well, right? To tell my kid, like, don't touch the hot stove. I don't have to tell them, your upper dermis layer will separate from your lower dermis layer and fill with fluid and will cause you pain. They don't have to understand that.
And you're not, just because you're keying on the obedience aspect, you're not, and the fact that your kids don't need an incredible intellect to be able to do that, to follow what you said and trust you. You're not trying to keep knowledge from them, right? You're not trying to, like, your goal in this is not saying, I'm just going to tell you what to do because it makes me feel good. And you get a little ego boost. You are teaching them as time goes on, but until they learn it and understand it,
right,
you're giving a strict, like, hey, this is going to hurt you. You may not understand it, but over time, you're learning with me and I'm teaching you. I'm bringing knowledge to you, but in your timing as a parent. And if they just got all the knowledge in the world, it would be, it would be bad for your kids.
That's just not how life works. There will be a moment in time when they can understand why they shouldn't have the cookie because of nutrition and sugar and all the stuff, but they don't need to know that to obey.
Okay, so this comment, the guy's point is wrong, because if you tell your kids if they do wrong, they will get spanked, doesn't mean that they will get spanked 25 years later.
Which is where the metaphor breaks down.
Well, no, that's not even where the metaphor breaks down, because I completely disagree with that. It's if you spare your child the rod, you hate them. Like, you are setting up your kids for failure later down the road because they don't understand consequences and boundaries and all of that. Like, you see it time and time again.
No, I think his point was, like, he told Adam and Eve that they would die, and they didn't die for 900 more years. But I think that's just like,
well, it seems
consequence of the difference in the
seems
metaphors.
very obvious that there was instant consequences as well.
Yes.
And
immediately their eyes were open. They knew they were.
They had shame.
There were instant consequences for sure.
Well,
okay. We did it.
Yeah. Oh, Victoria has one more thing.
Yeah. So one more thing. It's kind of like it's a sort of a different topic, but more of it might be a little bit lighter than what we just ended on. So. Someone said every generation, and referring to the end times, every generation thought it was going to happen soon. Jesus thought the end was coming a few thousand years ago.
Oh, I don't think Jesus thought that.
No,
but
I don't think Jesus thought that either.
He wanted his followers to think that.
Yeah, you can listen to Bart Ehrman, but I wouldn't if I were you.
Yeah. Do you have any resources, recommendations on?
Inspiring Philosophy. I love Inspiring Philosophy. He's so cool. Anyway, I would just say this is kind of a meta level deal, but the way that prophecy works in the Bible is it's not like, ooh, on February 7th, you will get $1,000, right? The way that prophecy works is, if you then, I'm seeing into your future. If you eat cookies every day, all day, every day, you will get fat. That is my prophetic warning to you.
Right.
And as silly as that is really how prophecy works in the Bible. If you go down this if you go down this path, this is what will happen to you. And so I think that the fact that Jesus hasn't come back yet, that people have been waiting for 2,000 years, is because Jesus said, when all nations will, this gospel will be preached to all nations, then the end will come. And so it just must be that this gospel has not been preached to all nations.
Right.
So it's not fair to say Jesus gave a very specific condition, and we've been waiting 2,000 years, and where is he? Well, how about the one condition he gave?
Yeah.
Where's it? What about that one?
Well, people often say, like, he said, this generation will not pass. And it's like, you don't know how that phrase was being used. That phrase could have been used the generation he's speaking about in the future.
Right.
Or, so there's multiple ways to.
It's not
take
as
that.
cut and dry as, haha, people have been saying that for 2,000 years. No, there's good answers to that kind of stuff. Anyway, you ready to wrap?
Yeah. And yeah, I will say, like, we need to figure out a way to start putting the comments on the screen.
Yeah.
So we'll figure out a mechanism soon. I don't know how you do that with OBS, but so Victoria will start displaying people's comments. So thank you to everyone who has been with us, Ravioli Boy and
all of our friends in the chat.
Yeah, everybody that stuck around. And I saw a comment that was like, I think he was an atheist guy. He's like, yeah, I'm trying to get out of my the thought bubble,
Great.
the whole atheist YouTube.
Glad
come
you're
over
here.
So I think that's cool. And
Probably should listen to somebody a little smarter than us, but
yeah.
I'm glad you're here.
Yeah, Corpse Rider said thanks for the show. So yeah, thanks for being here. I think you were bringing up some challenging points, and so it's been cool. We've actually really, really enjoyed doing this live and having the chat and everything. So we're gonna keep trying to make it better. So if you have any suggestions on how we display, send us a message, or you can email us at hello@divinecreative.org. But we want to start displaying y'all's messages and really interact and have different segments, Q&A segments throughout these episodes. But as always, if you want to give to the show and support what we're doing here, you can go over to divinecreative.org and click the little donate button, or the give button, and donate to Get to the Heart. You can also just share this episode and like and subscribe to support what we're doing. And as always, we end each and every show with a prayer. So you or I this time, or Victoria, do you want to pray this time? Yeah, let's go. My wife. Okay. My wife is awesome. I love her.
Lord, thank you so much for this time that we've had together. I just pray that you reveal yourself to each and every person who joined on this chat, who is questioning and really trying to seek truth. It says in the scripture, Lord, that those who seek you will find you. And so I just pray that, and I ask that in your name, Jesus. Thank you so much for guiding the conversation and guiding Michael and Bailey into some really great conversations and wonderful revelations. We just love you so much, and we're grateful to do this. We're grateful to get to love you and to serve you in any way that we can. And we're just grateful for you. We love you, Jesus. Amen.
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 All right. Sayonara, y'all.